Everyone, welcome to Barça News. It is June 6, 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona now ready to loan Fernandez. But only if a certain thing happens, I'm going to tell you what that is. Also, Grimaldo's price is dropping. So we're going to talk about what does that mean for Barcelona. And finally, Natan, Real Betis' center back, offering himself to Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Boo and welcome to this weird video, this weird live I'm doing because right now I'm actually at the Houston airport. As I told you guys during yesterday's podcast, I am on my way to Argentina. I'm gonna be there for a couple of weeks, but as always when I travel I do take my laptop and my camera with me, so I'm still gonna be making daily videos with all Barcelona news. I had a layover here in Houston. It was supposed to be only 1 hour layover, so in other words, change planes and then keep on my way to Argentina, but instead there's apparently some weather problems, so there's gonna be a delay. So my flight got delayed by a couple of hours, which usually I would be pretty upset about, but in this situation I don't mind it. You know why? Because it gives me the opportunity to make a video. So hey, usually delays are bad. Today it's not a bad thing because now I get to do this live from Houston, which of course is important because I can bring you the news. Let me put my mic right here. Wait, what is it? Oh well, I'm just gonna hold it in my hand. I was gonna clip it to my shirt, but let's talk about the news. Let's talk about the news because, ladies and gentlemen, we talked about how Hansi Flick won the Coach of the Year for the 2025-2026 season, his second time in a row doing that, and well, we now have the Player of the Year. Hold on, it's gonna be tough with me holding my mic, but the Player of the Year, ladies and gentlemen, is Lamine Yamal. Yes, you heard that right. Hansi Flick winning Coach of the Season, and now Lamine Yamal winning Player of the Season, which of course is not a surprise. Lamine Yamal had an incredible season. Not only was he La Liga champ, of course, with Barcelona, but he also ended up scoring 16 goals and providing 12 assists. 16 goals and 12 assists. That's 28 goal contribution for the 18-year-old starlet for Barcelona. Again, these are just La Liga numbers, okay? I want to make that clear. These are just La Liga numbers because in total, Lamine Yamal has had 24 goals and 18 assists in all competitions, okay? 24 goals, 18 assists in all competitions. That's, what is that? 42 goal contribution in all competitions, but of course we're talking about the best player in the season for in La Liga, so obviously the other competitions don't count. So now here we're talking about, you know, La Liga numbers. 16 goals, 12 assists for Lamine Yamal, and he also won the Sarra Trophy. If you don't know what the Sarra Trophy is, the Pichichi Trophy, as you know, it's given to the top goal scorer of La Liga. The Sarra Trophy is given to the top scorer of La Liga who's Spanish, right? So it's given to the top Spanish scorer of La Liga. In this case, Lamine Yamal won it alongside Ferran. So Lamine and Ferran are both the top goal scorers in La Liga, top Spanish goal scorers of La Liga, and now Lamine winning the best player of the season, which honestly, it's pretty incredible. But anyways, there's more news. We're not just going to talk about Lamine Yamal. We also have to talk about Pep Guardiola because he was in Barcelona. As you know, Pep Guardiola has stepped down as the coach of Manchester City. He's going to be in the city of Barcelona. That's where he's from. That's where his house is, his family is. He's going to be there just relaxing, you know, taking some time off from all this coaching. He's, of course, been coaching nonstop. From Barca, he went to Bayern. From Bayern, he went to City. Now he's going to take some time off. But while he was there, he had some interesting statements that I would like to highlight, starting with what Pep Guardiola had to say about Hansi Flick and Hansi Flick's Barca, because Pep Guardiola said they've had... Oh, hold on. This is really tough doing this at the airport, by the way. There we go. Okay. They've had 2 extraordinary years beyond the results because of how well they've played and how attractive it is to watch them play. I'm a big fan of Hansi, of how they do things, and I hope he stays with them for many, many years. So Pep Guardiola, very impressed with Hansi Flick, very impressed with how Barcelona play under Hansi Flick. And I mean, of course, we've all seen it. I think Barcelona is incredibly entertaining to watch under Hansi Flick. And the fact that Pep is saying this, I mean, that's a huge, huge honor and a compliment to Hansi Flick. I mean, this is like a Pulitzer winner seeing a picture that you took and saying, wow, that's an amazing picture, right? I mean, we're talking about the greatest coach in our history saying that he enjoys Hansi Flick and how Barcelona are playing under him. But that's not really the statements I want to focus on. This was just kind of like the positive statements that he had to say about Flick. I want to focus about what Pep Guardiola said about the Champions League. And this is very important because I touched on this previously in the channel. But of course, coming from Pep, that's completely different, right? It hits different. Coming from me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, who am I? I'm just a random guy on YouTube, right? But when it comes from Pep Guardiola, the greatest coach in our history, well, we got to pay attention. But this is what Pep said about winning the Champions League. He said the Champions League destroys projects. I hope that's not the case, that just because we didn't win it, people don't think everything is bad. La Liga is what gives you consistency. Remember that. La Liga is what gives you consistency. In the Champions League, you have to be in good shape at the end without injuries. The referees have a huge influence in this competition. We continue. What the day-to-day is good, that the team continues to grow, and that people don't think that just because we didn't reach the Champions League final or didn't win it, the season is bad. What lays the foundation for a season are the league titles. This is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this before. Winning league titles is not easy. In fact, winning league titles is an exception, not the rule, right? There are 20 teams. Only one can win it, right? Barcelona won La Liga. 19 other teams didn't, right? It's very difficult to win La Liga. You're talking about 38 matches over the span of 9 months. You have to be consistent. You cannot get lucky in La Liga. If you get lucky in 1 match, 2 matches, 3 matches, maybe 4, that's not going to be enough. You have to be consistently good, and that's important. This is why winning a league is very, very important, you know. For some reason, we've been fed this story. Well, we know what reason it's for, right? We've been fed this story that if you didn't win the Champions League, all of a sudden your season doesn't matter. That's absolute bullcrap. And we know why this story is being fed to us, because Madridistas are, of course, butthurt that Barcelona are winning the league and they're not. So now they're spinning this story that somehow if you don't win the Champions, it's a failure of the season. No, I'm sorry, but it's much more difficult to win La Liga as opposed to winning the Champions League. You know how difficult it is to go a La Liga season or a league season undefeated? The last time someone did that was Real Madrid back in the 1930s. In the Champions League, almost every winner who's won it has gone undefeated, because it's much shorter tournament, where if you do get lucky, you end up winning, and it's all about timing, right? Having your players healthy, having the referees' calls going in your favor. That doesn't work in the league. In a league that's 38 matches, getting lucky is not gonna work. You have to be consistent. The referee helping you in 2, 3, 4 matches is not gonna help. You have to be consistent. So this whole story that we've been currently being fed by Real Madrid, that somehow if you don't win the Champions League, your season is bullcrap, it's nothing but, honestly, tears. They're them just being sore losers and not, you know, wanting to admit the fact that they're crap. I mean, if La Liga is such easy to win, why aren't they winning it, right? So let's stop with this nonsense that somehow if you don't win the Champions League, there's not a successful season. Winning the Champions League is the cherry on top, right? Winning the league, that's the main objective. Winning the Champions League is only cherry on top. I mean, in any other country, that's the case, right? If you win the Premier League, do you think that club, whoever wins the Premier League, is going to be crying, saying, oh, our season is a failure? No, Arsenal are celebrating right now because they won the Premier. You know, had they won the Champions League, that would have been the cherry on top. So let's stop with that nonsense that somehow if you don't win the Champions League, the season is a failure. I think that's a story being fed by crybaby Madridistas. And again, you don't have to take my word for it. Take the word of the greatest coach in the history of our club, Pep Guardiola. But anyways, let's move on, because we do have some news about one of the most exciting talents currently in La Masia, of course, Fernandez, 17 years old midfielder. He's the cousin of Tony Fernandez, someone that we've been keeping track for quite some time because he's an incredibly promising player. His contract expires in 2027, and Barcelona right now working on renewing his contract. They have met with the player. They have assured him that they have full trust in him, that they believe in his potential, that they think he could be a key player in the future of the first team. However, there is a good possibility of loaning the player come next season, and it's all going to depend on one thing, which is the preseason. Guille Fernandez is set to participate in the preseason with Hansi Flick, and based on what happens in the preseason, Barcelona will determine whether to send him on loan or not. So in other words, if he does the preseason and then Flick says, I like this guy, keep him, he's gonna stay. If Hansi Flick says, this guy is still not ready, then Barcelona will send him on loan. Now, this loan will be a strictly a loan. Barcelona don't want to get rid of Guille Fernandez. There won't be an option to buy or anything like that. It would be just a loan. And the club where Guille Fernandez would go to would be based on the minutes they can offer. In other words, it's not going to be like, oh, let's send this guy to the most prestigious club interested in him. No, it's going to be like, let's send this guy to the club interested in him who will give him the most minutes. That way he can continue growing, developing, and who knows, maybe in the future he can be a key midfielder in the first team. All right, let's move on to the next bit of news. Right now, my gate, they're finally starting to board, finally. But let's continue because we do have to talk about Grimaldo, because, ladies and gentlemen, Grimaldo's price has dropped. Now, of course, Grimaldo, if you don't know who he is, I'm sure you guys do, but just in case, let's recap. He's a 30-year-old left back, came up through the Barcelona Academy, left Barcelona, is currently at Bayer Leverkusen. His contract expires next summer in 2027, and as such, his price has dropped. Bayer Leverkusen were looking for 20 million euros for Grimaldo. Now his price has dropped to 10 million, so his price has been slashed by half. And of course, we know Grimaldo has been trying to come back to Barcelona for quite some time. So Barcelona keeping an eye on this situation to see what happens. Of course, right now, the main priority is to keep Cancelo and Balde. But if Cancelo cannot come, maybe Grimaldo could be an option because, again, we're talking about 10 million euros. It's a pretty cheap price. But of course, my question to you is, who would you rather? Would you rather Cancelo? Would you rather Grimaldo? I think they're very similar players, very highly offensive. They can score goals, they can provide assists defensively. They lack a lot, but so very similar profiles. Honestly, I would prefer Cancelo, not because I have anything against Grimaldo, but I mean, we know what Cancelo can do. We saw him this half season under Flick. He was absolutely amazing. So if we know Cancelo can work, then I would prefer have Cancelo as opposed to Grimaldo. I'm sure he would be good, but we don't know how he would work under Hansi Flick. We do know how Cancelo would work under Hansi Flick because we've seen it. So personally, I would choose Cancelo over Grimaldo, but of course, again, I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. Would you rather Cancelo? Would you rather Grimaldo? Let me know in the comment section. And then let's end today's video with some news about a center back whose name is Natan. You guys have already heard of him. 25 years old, Brazilian left-footed center back, currently plays at Real Betis. He had a pretty incredible season. He's one of the fastest center backs currently in the league. I think he reached a maximum of 35 kilometers per hour. That's pretty insane speed. But Natan, he offered himself to Barcelona previously through his agent. His agent is Andre Curie, the same agent for Vitor Roque. Andre Curie met with Deco, offered the player to Barca, and well, now his name is coming up again because Natan is still looking to leave Real Betis during this summer transfer market. He's looking to make a jump into, a big club, and it's reported that his #1 priority is Barcelona. He would prefer to go to Barcelona. So out of all the clubs interested in him, he would prefer to go to Barca. But of course, as you know by now from talking about Guardiola, we're talking about Bastoni, right now the priority is not to reinforce a center back. Hansi Flick is incredibly happy with Pau Cubarsí and Gerard Martin. So right now the priority is to sign a center forward, with of course Julian Alvarez being the #1. Once that's done, we can talk about center backs, and of course Barcelona have a long list of center backs that they could sign, but just know that on that list is Natan, and that he would prefer to go to Barca. Anyways, that is all for this video. Again, right now they're calling all passengers to my flight, so it looks like we're boarding. I'm about to go in the plane. I got a 9-hour flight ahead of me. I land in Argentina tomorrow, Sunday morning. But as always, when I travel, I take my camera with me, I take my laptop with me, so I'm still gonna be doing news videos. So don't worry, you're still gonna be up to date on all Barcelona news. But for now, I bid you guys adieu. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, Barça.